If you touch that Barrett, you're out of the team for good. That's what Commander Hayden Greaves had said. But in Salton Valley, when the lead sniper fell, when every path was sealed tight by enemy fire, Ashley Marin, a medic no one trusted, stepped forward. Her hand rested on the rifle stock. One breath, one shot, and the entire sky fell silent, just to bear witness to a truth no one dared imagine. Unless she touched the Barrett, she would be permanently expelled from the team. That was the only reminder the SEAL commander gave. No shouting, no threats. The warning was delivered so softly it might as well have been about a broken coffee pot, not a heavy caliber rifle capable of blowing a truck's engine to smithereens from 300 meters away. But she understood clearly. The line had been drawn. Cross it, and everything would end. The Barrett 50 calorie lay there like a sleeping predator. It was draped in coarse cloth, positioned beside 3 supply crates in the makeshift outpost on the edge of Bakersfield Valley, California. The morning air carried a dry, stifling heat, the kind of weather that made every sound echo, as if the high desert itself were listening. Ashley Marin, the nurse newly transferred from 29 Palms training camp, moved lightly across the open ground. A small scar on her left wrist caught the sunlight, the rest hidden by a carelessly rolled-up sleeve. Her dusty combat boots were neatly laced. Her stride didn't say much, but the way she paused and looked down at the Barrett was unmistakable, the gaze of someone who knew exactly what that rifle could do. No one noticed. In the chaotic canvas of the field camp, the hum of helicopters, the crackle of radios, the half-hearted laughter of soldiers, a nurse stepping near a rifle, wasn't the kind of thing to raise eyebrows. Not until her fingers grazed the weapon's body. At that moment, the air seemed to freeze. She didn't touch the trigger. No rush. She simply rested her hand on the cold metal, as if touching a memory. And then, the memory came flooding back. The image of her father who once told her, "Some things aren't meant for you, not until the world runs out of people sane enough to hold them." She pulled off her glove. Her bare hand settled on the rifle's body. Gently, calmly, utterly human. The Barrett didn't resist. It just lay there, waiting as if it knew the one who'd stirred it wasn't a stranger. It all happened in less than 90 seconds. But for Ashley, it was the moment she stepped out of her safe zone. A zone she'd lived in for 4 years as a medic, patching up what others tore apart. Now, for the first time in ages, she faced the possibility that she could end things. And then, a thick plume of smoke rose from the other side of the valley, the first explosion. No one shouted, no one warned. But by instinct, everyone started rushing toward the pass. The primary gunners had already fallen back to the second line. The recon system was jammed. Before the commander could issue orders, the convoy took fire. Ashley crouched beside the Barrett. No one called her name. No one gave orders. She didn't ask for permission. In that fleeting moment between chaos and instinct, she racked the bolt. The first shot hit its mark. The second silenced the entire hillside. The Barrett roared. In the sky, the recon helicopter circled. The coordinator yelled into the radio, "Hold on! Who just fired?" No answer came. Only a small, brown-haired girl, kneeling beside the rifle as if she still hadn't decided whether she was the one breaking the rules or the last one keeping them. And then she fired the third shot. Some people join the military to prove something. Ashley didn't. She just wanted to be there. To do something decent. That was the first thing anyone could easily believe about her, and also the reason no one thought she'd go far. Born on the edge of a poor neighborhood near the Marine Corps base in 29 Palms, California, Ashley grew up in a house without air conditioning, but always with cold water thanks to an old freezer her father tirelessly fixed. Her mother worked part-time at a library. Her father, a former Delta Force operator, never spoke of his exploits, but he could carve up a live chicken with a dagger faster than a sushi chef. After he died in an explosion during a training exercise, everything changed. Ashley grew quieter. She shifted from dreams of combat to medicine, even though everyone said she had the eyes of a sniper. When she joined the military, she chose to be a nurse, not because she feared guns, but because she wanted to heal. But that's when she learned a simple truth. In a special forces team, the healer is often seen as the weak link. In the team, she was the little sister. People liked her the way you'd like a tame stray cat, but they never listened when she spoke. When she suggested upgrading the medical kits for desert conditions, the commander waved her off. Later, when she asked to train with the rifle unit to understand tactics, they laughed. "You're a nurse, not Rambo." At the training camp, someone once joked that if you gave Ashley a Barrett, she'd take it to sterilize it. A cute joke, just like her. But Ashley didn't laugh. She just bowed her head and kept taking notes. What few knew was that after every shift, she trained alone. In the break room, she disassembled medical kits like she was cleaning a rifle. She measured the distance from her bed to the window like she was gauging a firing range. In a world where no one thought she could, she quietly prepared for the day when no one else could. She never told anyone, but once, she adjusted a supply route on a simulated map, saving the team from a fire trap during a drill. It was just a simulation. No one mentioned it. No one knew it was her idea. Because Ashley never sought credit. She just observed, learned, and waited. Every soldier carries something personal they don't want anyone to touch. For Ashley, it was a small wooden box, its edges worn smooth by time, tucked carefully under the bunk in her temporary quarters at the training camp. No lock, no label, just a dark wooden box that looked like any discarded trinket. But inside was another world, a world Ashley once belonged to and still carried with her, silently. Inside the box were 3 items. A thick notebook filled with notes on ballistics and sighting in desert conditions, a sniper's glove with a torn index finger, and a faded black and white photograph, blurred by sunlight, of a man cleaning an M24 rifle under the shade of an oak tree. Her father, James Merrin. In the Delta Force community, his name wasn't unknown. But to Ashley, he wasn't a legend. He was the man who taught her how to step lightly on sand without leaving tracks. The one who used tin cans as targets and made her aim with one eye half closed. The one who could tell fairy tales while disassembling a rifle as easily as shucking corn. The summer Ashley turned 12, he took her to a training range outside town not to shoot, but to breathe. He taught her how to listen to her own heartbeat in the silence, how to reload her mind like loading a magazine. No one shoots better than someone who's not afraid of silence, he told her. He never pushed her toward a military path. But he also never hid the truth. You have the eyes of someone who knows when to end something bad. Don't let anyone teach you to bow to it. The day he died, everything shattered. A training accident, simple as that. An explosion, a brief phone call, a neatly folded flag left on the bed. Her mother, a woman of few words, said only one thing when she saw Ashley clutching the old glove. "Promise me, child. Don't follow one death with another gun." Ashley nodded, and in her heart, she believed she'd kept that promise. She entered the medical field as if seeking a gentler escape. In those early days, she tried to believe that healing was enough, that if she patched up enough wounds, her own pain might scar over too. But sometimes, that scar throbbed at the most unexpected moments, like the sound of distant gunfire or the smell of rusted iron in the air. When night fell over the base, others slept. Ashley stayed awake, flipping through the pages of her notebook, marking formulas for wind force, bullet trajectory, and elevation. Not because she planned to use them, but because she couldn't forget. Once, while cleaning the medical storage, she found an old discarded scope. She brought it back, cleaned it, and placed it on her windowsill as if just to look at the view. But no one knew that every morning, she adjusted its focus, like a reflex. Something in her was still watching, not a target, but the version of herself from long ago. Once, when a young soldier casually asked about the old photo tucked in her notebook, the one of her father under the tree, Ashley only smiled. Just someone who taught me to look a little farther. No one knew how far those eyes could see. When the mission to escort the supply convoy through the red dirt near Salton Valley began, no one thought it would be the day every rule was tested. On the map, it was just a simple supply corridor. But the treacherous terrain, disrupted signals, and the blazing California desert sun turned what seemed safe into a trap. The recon UAV lost contact just 90 seconds before the first explosion rang out. No one could identify the source of the firepower. A blind curve, a silent canyon, and then bullets fell like rain. The SEAL team was split apart, the primary snipers either wounded or out of position. The Barrett .50 calorie, the only weapon capable of turning the tide from a distance, was left abandoned by a cliff near where the UAV had gone down. At the field medical station not far away, Ashley sat amid screams and blood, one man wounded in the neck, another bleeding out from shrapnel. Her earpiece crackled with static, intermittent calls for support. Amid the chaotic noise, a familiar voice broke through. "We can't see the targets. God, they're moving along the ridge." Ashley glanced at the terrain monitor, then turned toward the open expanse to the west where there was a direct line of sight to the narrow pass. A perfect spot for a sniper, if someone was fast enough, precise enough, and bold enough. Then she remembered something her father once said, something she thought she'd forgotten. A person who runs from chaos is a victim. A person who steps into chaos to end it is a warrior. She stood up. No one called her name. No one stopped her. Everyone was too busy to notice a small nurse wiping sweat, retying her boots, and running out of the tent. Ashley didn't carry a rifle. She carried her medical bag, force of habit. But this time, she slipped the old scope and torn glove into a side pocket. It was the only thing that felt right in a situation where nothing made sense anymore. The terrain was rugged, the sand scorching her hands, and sharp rocks seemed to challenge every step, as if the valley itself were testing her. But Ashley didn't stop. She crawled across the mountainside, where the sun blurred everything like a misaligned scope. When she finally saw the Barrett lying amid dry dirt and spent casings, her heartbeat slowed. The rifle was covered in dust, ownerless, but not soulless. Ashley put on the glove. A small act, but to her it was like tying back an invisible thread severed long ago. She knelt, placing the scope on a makeshift wooden stand someone had hastily set up. She adjusted it by instinct. Every movement was precise, as if no time had passed since she last did this. The view was clear. Distance, 823 meters. Wind drifting left by 3 degrees. Ashley adjusted the elevation, breathing slowly. She saw the targets. 3 armed figures, preparing to launch grenades at the rear line. She held her breath, gently, no strain, no tremble. The first bullet left the barrel. A sharp, clean sound, nothing dramatic. But from that moment, the definition of the nurse would never be the same. Dear audience, grab a glass of water, take a moment to relax, and keep listening to the story. The twists are still to come. And please drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a joy to see who's joining us from around the world. Drop a 1 in the comments if you find this story gripping, so we can keep bringing you more captivating tales. She lay prone behind the Barrett .50 calorie, as if she had belonged to it long before life forced her away. Her eyes locked into the scope. Everything ahead, the screams, the gunfire, the cries of the wounded dissolved. Only her breath remained. For the first time in years, Ashley's hands didn't tremble. No hesitation, no asking for permission. A deafening crack erupted from the hilltop. An enemy wielding an RPG was blasted from his position. In her earpiece, someone shouted, "Who just fired?" Vance the spotter had seen it all through the drone. He bolted upright in his seat, unable to believe his eyes. The only person kneeling behind the Barrett, covered in dust and blood, was Ashley. "Who gave you permission to shoot?" Vance whispered over the radio, not expecting a reply. Ashley didn't answer. She only adjusted her sight and pulled the trigger again. The second shot. The second target. The wind wasn't an issue. The range wasn't an issue. Only the lives of her teammates mattered, and the eyes that once learned to measure a pulse with her fingers were now reading the movements of death. The SEAL team below began their counterattack. Thanks to her precise shots, they regained control of the battlefield. A Humvee broke free from a crossfire, thanks to her eliminating a machine gunner holding the choke point. In 8 minutes, Ashley fired 5 shots, 4 hit their targets, One destroyed an enemy sensor. The remarkable part, she was still wearing her medic's armband. A wounded teammate groaned below. In the pause between shots, Ashley leapt down, bandaged the injury, administered fluids, set up a blood shield, and returned to her rifle position. Like a gust of wind, her movements were without waste. The hand that held a needle and the hand that held the trigger, neither ever stopped saving lives. A veteran sniper later recounted, "I used to think people like her didn't belong on the front line. That day, I saw how wrong I was." Greaves, watching from the command center, followed every move. He didn't order her to stop. He couldn't. Because if he did, he'd have to be the one to climb up there and take her place. And he knew full well he couldn't. She observed not just with her eyes, but with instinct. Each shot was a calculation of technique, medicine, and battlefield intuition. She didn't shoot to win, she shot to save lives. The battle ended as the sky turned toward dusk. The gun smoke hadn't yet cleared, but the sweep teams confirmed no additional casualties in the convoy. An almost unthinkable achievement in that terrain. A commander exclaimed, "That's something I've never seen a nurse, saving lives with both hands, one to heal, one to fight." Vance, after confirming the area was secure, climbed to the hilltop. He found her sitting there, shoulders relaxed, head resting lightly against the Barrett as if asleep, not from exhaustion, but because she was at peace. He sat beside her, glancing at the rifle, then at her. "I thought you weren't allowed to touch it." Ashley gave a faint smile, not looking at him. "So did I." A silence stretched between them, thicker than the gun smoke, but within it was acknowledgement, quiet, yet undeniable. As they descended the hill, her teammates didn't look at her with surprise. They looked at her with gratitude. That night, when everything grew quiet, Ashley sat alone under the moonlight and wrote a few lines in her old medical notebook. She didn't write about the Barrett or the enemy. She only wrote, "Today I used everything I knew to keep others breathing, whether with a needle or a bullet." The news spread through the camp just hours after the convoy returned safely from Salton Valley. No one fell. Not a single vehicle was lost. But what set everyone abuzz wasn't the mission's success, it was the identity of the person who fired the Barrett 50 caliber, saving the entire team from being wiped out. Ashley Marin. A nurse. No one believed it. No one expected it. Commander Hayden Greaves, a grizzled SEAL veteran with a limp from Fallujah, sat silently in the tactical room, staring at the screen replaying the battle's audio. Vance's voice came through the headset. "The shooter is medical. 3 times. Unchanging. Unmistakable." He recalled the moment weeks earlier when he'd looked Ashley in the eye and said, his voice near a threat, "If you touch that Barrett, you're out of the team for good." Now, that same Barrett had saved the team, and she was the one who pulled the trigger. The post-mission debrief that day was packed. Everyone was there not for the report, but out of curiosity. Ashley sat in the back row, silent. She looked as she always did, her medical fatigue still streaked with red dirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal her sun-darkened wrists. Nothing out of the ordinary. But the eyes fixed on her were different. Rico, a renowned SEAL sniper in the unit, stood up to speak first. He scratched his head, glanced around, then locked eyes with Ashley. "I thought you were doing medical," he said, his voice half laughing, half serious. "Didn't know you were out there wrestling with death." The room burst into laughter, not mocking laughter, but the kind filled with relief and respect, the laughter of people who'd stood at death's edge and returned whole, thanks to someone else. Vance spoke next. No humor this time. He simply said, "If it wasn't for Ashley's first shot, I probably wouldn't be sitting here." Greaves stood. No one interrupted him. He looked at Ashley, then pulled from his pocket a challenge coin bearing the symbol of an oak tree. "This coin was meant for a formal ceremony," he said. "But some people don't need fanfare to be recognized." He walked over and placed the coin on the table in front of Ashley. No cameras, no drums or trumpets, just a metal coin making a faint clink as it touched the table. But that sound carried more weight than any metal. After the meeting, no one called Ashley the nurse anymore. They called her by her name. Simple, quiet, but irreversible. The following week, during a combined medical tactical training session, Ashley was assigned as an observer for the sniper team. A recruit asked, "Is she even qualified?" The instructor merely turned, pointed to the new sniper's glove hanging on the medical bay door, and said, "She's the only one here who's pulled the trigger to save the whole team." The next day, that same soldier came to the medical bay, not for medicine but for advice. Ashley listened. She didn't say much. She didn't lecture like an officer. She just told stories about aiming, about breathing, and about what truly sets a soldier apart, not the force of pulling a trigger, but knowing when not to pull it. Every weekend afternoon, as the sun dipped behind the mountains beyond the base, Ashley swung the medical bay door wide open. Not for the breeze, not for the light, but because she wanted those passing by to see the sniper's glove hanging on the hook, a pristine, unused glove, accompanied by a small handwritten note. "For next time, hopefully you won't need it." It wasn't just an anonymous gift. It was the team's way of acknowledging something no one dared say aloud, that the woman once deemed the least likely had become an indispensable pillar. And that symbol, quiet as it was, stood stronger than any recorded commendation. As months passed, battlefield wounds began to heal, but the echo of the Salton Valley lingered in late-night conversations. Whenever new recruits joined, Ashley's story was retold not as a legend, but as a gentle reminder. Never judge someone solely by the role they're assigned. The following month, during a ceremony honoring military medical personnel, Ashley was nominated for contribution beyond rank. She didn't attend. That night, she sat with her old wooden box, opening it once more. The photograph of her father under the oak tree still lay there, beside the glove with its torn finger from years past. But now, she placed the oak tree challenge coin, Commander Greaves's gift, inside as well, gently, unseen by anyone. Not to preserve the past, but to close it fully. A person doesn't need to cling to victories if she knows she's still doing what's right. The next week, a group of young soldiers organized a tactical drill involving coordinated sniper and medical support. For the first time in the unit's history, they requested the lead instructor not be a veteran sharpshooter, but Petty Officer Ashley Marin. And no one objected. Not because she was a hero, but because they trusted she knew what was worth shooting, and what was worth healing more. During one drill near dusk, when the wind shifted unexpectedly, a young soldier fumbled, unable to adjust in time. Ashley stepped forward, saying nothing. She knelt beside him, gently corrected his stance, adjusted the rifle's barrel with a light touch, and smiled a smile warm enough to ease tension but sharp enough to keep focus. The bullet left the barrel. The target was hit dead center. The soldier turned to thank her. She just nodded, then said softly, almost to herself, "The wind is never the problem. The problem is who's breathing beside you." It was something her father had said on a dusty training range, under an old oak tree. Now, that phrase became a quiet tradition within the team. That evening, in her simple quarters, Ashley took out her old ballistics notebook and flipped to the last page. Her fingers still bore faint calluses from days long gone, but the smell of gunpowder was absent. She wrote one more line. "Today, Dad, I don't hear the bullets anymore. I only hear my teammates breathing steady." Under the dim glow of a yellow lamp, the page seemed to still. No one witnessed that moment, but it was the instant when the symbols of war, the beret, the coin, the glove, were closed by the breath of life. The next morning, someone noticed another sniper's glove hanging beside the old one on the medical bay door. No note, no one claimed it. But the entire base understood. Sometimes, respect doesn't need words, it only needs action. And you, my dear audience, brace yourselves for the next twist in this jaw-dropping story. So, before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you're truly loving what I'm doing here. And drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. It's always a thrill to see who's joining us from all corners of the globe.